She told him the baby was his, and for years, Jim Jones believed her. But everything came crashing down in one moment. Right after learning the truth, Jim walked out of the studio, straight into a lawyer's office, and filed for divorce. His eyes were red, hands shaking, and his voice barely holding up. It wasn't just heartbreak, it was betrayal. What started as a love story on reality TV turned into something much darker. A DNA test changed everything. It tore up contracts, ruined friendships, and caused public outrage. Footage from the court later leaked, showing Mama Jones' furniture and yelling backstage. Chrissy didn't deny anything. She simply said, "I did what I had to." Just 6 words that left the internet in shock. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a full-blown deception. All those moments. They shared TV specials, wedding talk, and that image of being a loyal couple were built on a false story. This wasn't just a love and hip-hop episode. It was a real-life mess that some say looked like it was scripted by the devil himself. What was supposed to be a routine hearing about VH1 contracts took a wild turn when Jim showed up with a sealed envelope, a lawyer, and a face that said he was done. Chrissy was already sitting there, casually scrolling through her phone, unaware that her world was about to collapse. Inside the envelope were the results of a DNA test that Jim had done on his own away from the cameras and networks. It wasn't just about one child. The test also involved another baby Chrissy had once claimed didn't survive. But here's the twist. That second baby is alive, and Jim isn't the father of either. For years, Chrissy kept telling the same story. She said they were taking their time and staying off camera to build a future together. But behind closed doors, she was allegedly bribing a clinic worker and faking test results. All to keep up a lie that involved 2 children and 2 completely separate lives. Things went viral fast once the truth leaked. Mama Jones was right the whole time, but the biggest shock came from a voicemail where Chrissy told her old publicist, word for word, if the second test comes back negative, stall him and tell him the lab lost it or something. I just need until the reunion airs. That one message revealed everything. She wasn't just keeping a man from learning the truth. She was allegedly delaying it on purpose, to squeeze one more paycheck out of a reunion special. This wasn't just manipulation, it was sabotage. Sources close to the case claimed Jim's legal team uncovered even more. Allegedly, Chrissy had tampered with paperwork, altering birth certificates, using old ultrasound videos, and made it all look. One of Jim's friends said he always found it strange how she never let him come to doctor's appointments. But Chrissy always had an answer, saying things like, "I just want something that's mine," and Jim believed her. He's not perfect, and he knows that, but he always stayed loyal. That's why this hit him. Court reporters said that when all the evidence came out, voicemails, test results, even burner phone records, Jim couldn't even look at her. The judge asked if he wanted to proceed with the legal separation, and he just nodded. Chrissy didn't shed a tear. She didn't say sorry. She just crossed her legs, folded her arms, and said, "What does it even mean to survive a fake love?" That one sentence will haunt Jim for years. People who know the couple say this isn't the first time Chrissy has pulled something like this. Back in 2011, there was another pregnancy-related issue that many believed was more about getting attention from producers than anything else. So maybe it's not new for her. Some say Chrissy knew exactly when to play the pregnancy card, when the show needed drama or ratings were slipping. Either way, Jim felt humiliated. He realized he was just a piece in someone else's game. A storyline used to build a brand, and it wasn't even the DNA lies that broke him most. It was knowing that everything he trusted had. A leaked screenshot showed that Jim has now asked to immediately end all business partnerships with Chrissy, cancel any reality projects they were tied to together, and seek legal damages for what his lawyers called reputational sabotage. The fallout is just beginning. He wasn't just walking away from her, he was exposing her. And just when it seemed like things couldn't spiral any further, someone else entered the scene. It was Cam's former lawyer, stepping forward with another. Inside was a piece of footage that linked back to the tangled mess of the paternity timeline. The courtroom, already shaken by DNA bombshells, fell even deeper into chaos as this new evidence was introduced. The video, reportedly shot in 2018, showed Chrissy and Cam together in Miami. This was the exact same weekend. Jim, she was at a wellness retreat in Sedona. Jim had his suspicions back then, especially when he found a hotel bill with 2 toothbrushes. Now he had proof that it wasn't some misunderstanding. As the second part of this case unfolded, the courtroom lights dimmed and a projector lit up. Everyone turned toward the screen. Played. Chrissy's defense began to crumble. A witness had stepped up to verify that the DNA revelations were only the start. The timestamp read, August 14, 2018. At 10:42 p.m., Chrissy appeared on screen, walking down a hotel hallway in a gray sweatshirt, her head low, phone in hand. She looked around, knocked twice on a door, and it opened. There was and grinning. What followed was more than enough to crush the illusion of coincidence. The footage continued inside the hotel room. Chrissy took off her sweatshirt, revealing a tank top and sweatpants. She leaned in close and said something, but there was no audio. There was no need for it. The video said everything. The courtroom sat frozen. Jim was asked if he wanted a break, but he refused. He stared ahead, completely still. Chrissy didn't move either, but her lawyer jumped up to object. He argued the video wasn't validated. The judge didn't look convinced. When your client claims she was across the country on that date, and a video proves otherwise, that's not just a detail, it's a flat-out lie. Before the room could even process what just happened, Cam's lawyer stepped up again and handed over a USB drive. On it was a voice memo, another damaging piece of evidence. In the clip, Chrissy's voice was clear and emotionless. "As long as Jim thinks the kid is his, I have leverage. I'm not giving that up," the court confirmed. It came from her old backup account. When it played, the courtroom fell silent. You could hear her calmly explaining how she ended up standing again. A woman in the gallery covered Doc. Mama Jones, now back in the room under security watch, quietly began crying, but this time it wasn't rigid. Was sorrow? Jim just closed his eyes. He didn't yell or speak. Need to. The silence in the room said it all. Then the judge gave a simple word: proceed. Cam's legal team took a moment before revealing the next blowbank records. They showed Chrissy had wired $7,000 to a private OBGYN clinic in New Jersey just 2 weeks before the supposed miscarriage. Not only that, but there were also traces of deleted prescriptions and test results. Translation: Chrissy allegedly paid to make a second DNA test disappear from official records. Jim's attorney stood and said, "Your Honor, we formally request an investigation into identity concealment and prenatal fraud. We also intend to bring this to the district attorney's office." Chrissy didn't argue. She didn't say a word, but her face paled slightly. For the first time since the trial started, she looked shaken. The judge approved the request and marked the new evidence on the record. And then came the twist expecting. A witness was called, someone the room hadn't heard of before. A woman stepped up to the stand, clearly nervous. She clutched her handbag like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. She introduced herself as Chrissy's former assistant, employed from 2020. She managed travel, calendars, and, yes, her private messages. When asked if she was ever instructed to delete messages, she hesitated and said yes. Chrissy had her delete multiple texts before Jim came home, and she also sent messages pretending to be Chrissy, even her phones. When the judge asked why she sent those photos, the assistant explained, Chrissy wanted promo-ready pictures to pitch for a new season of their reality show. She needed the public to see her as sympathetic. There were even messages involving Cam. The assistant admitted she would sometimes text Cam on Chrissy's behalf, a fake number. Jim watched her, not with anger but with a kind of disbelief, like he was looking. In some messages, Chrissy had written things like, "Jim's asking too many questions, and wait until after midnight to answer." The assistant made it clear, Chrissy was living two lives, and now both were crashing down. The courtroom remained tense, but outside it was a different scene. Phones were out, blogs were exploding, and social media hashtags were lighting up. People online dubbed Chrissy's burner phone the symbol of her double life. To wrap up the day, the court played one final audio clip. Chrissy sat motionless, her eyes fixed on the floor. No tears, no emotion. The voice on the recording was hers again, but it was backstage at a mid-season taping for Love and Hip Hop. According to a crew member, the moment was caught during a mic check. Chrissy, unaware she was being recorded, spoke freely. What she said wasn't played in full, but it confirmed everything she knew, exactly what she was doing. Jim didn't flinch, but the message was clear to everyone in that courtroom. He had been lied to, used, and humiliated. Not by accident, but by design. You don't need to know everything up. Little mystery keeps things interesting. Those were Chrissy's words. Halfway through a video the court played. The judge stopped the footage, looked over his glasses, said nothing, and shook his head. That was the moment he adjourned court for the day. Jim stood up quietly and walked out. He didn't say a word, didn't look back. Mama Jones whispered, "Men leave when they get too much truth." Chrissy, though, stayed seated, almost like she realized the end had finally caught up to her. But there was still more to unfold. Outside the courthouse, chaos was brewing. Reporters rushed to get statements. And then, a former business partner of Jim walked up to a mic and made a jaw-dropping claim. There are more emails, money transfers, and a voicemail from a Love and Hip Hop executive that proved this pregnancy storyline was planned months before cameras even rolled. That meant Chrissy didn't just lie to Jim, she lied to the public. Every deal, every interview, every staged moment with a fake engagement ring was now under fire. VH1 insiders had already begun leaking internal notes. Even Mona Scott was reportedly being pressured to release unedited footage that might show what really went on behind the scenes, and we hadn't even hit the next phase of the trial. The following morning, Chrissy showed up alone. No glam team, no producers whispering in her ear, just big sunglasses, a heavy silence, and the weight of everything she had built crashing down. She didn't speak to reporters. She walked through security with her head down and took her seat, like someone who already knew what was coming. At 9:30 a.m. sharp, Jim's legal team introduced a new piece of evidence, a chain of internal emails between Chrissy and a fired VH1 executive. The subject lines were clear plot notes, time cues, and one message that read, "Let's lock in the pregnancy scare for episode 3. That buys me time before I have to explain the Miami trip." And Chrissy's reply at the bottom, "Game over." The judge raised an eyebrow and asked, "Ms. Lampkin, can you confirm this is your communication?" Even her own lawyer looked stunned. Chrissy paused, then nodded. "Yes, Your Honor, I sent that." No one in the courtroom gasped. They didn't have to. Everyone could feel the shift. Chrissy had gone from TV star to the villain in her own story. Jim sat motionless. He hadn't spoken once during any of it. He sipped water now and then, watching everything like it was business, not heartbreak. Then came the final blow. A court technician rolled in equipment for one last piece of evidence, a voice note pulled from Chrissy's iCloud. The audio was dated over a year ago. Chrissy's voice could be heard speaking to someone on speakerphone, saying, "Jim won't survive. And if he ever finds out about Cam, that's why I said the baby was his. He needed to believe in something. I needed him to stay until the spinoff was greenlit." The courtroom froze. It was so quiet that even the sound of Jim's lawyer pushing his chair back was loud. He walked to the bench and addressed the judge. "Your Honor, we submit this as final proof of deliberate emotional manipulation and commercial deception." And that was it. Jim's team then filed a motion to freeze all shared bank accounts and assets pending further review. The judge approved it. Moments later, the court announced that federal auditors would begin combing through Chrissy's business records, charity donations, online transactions, and branding payments. A court clerk handed Chrissy's lawyer a subpoena pack so thick it could barely bend. But Chrissy said nothing. She didn't argue. She didn't deny. She just looked drained, like a person who realized the script she wrote was now being returned with red ink, receipts, and legal stamps. Outside, the internet was ripping her image apart. Fans who once supported her had turned. Social media pages that used to post Team Chrissy now read, "Chrissy fooled us all." Bloggers were comparing her emotional TV moments with the court timeline, and the dates didn't match. One clip had her crying over a miscarriage that supposedly happened weeks after she had already been exposed. And perhaps the most telling leak came from a VH1 group chat. In it, producers made jokes about milking the pregnancy arc and referred to it as guaranteed ratings. It became clear this wasn't just one woman lying to a man. It was an orchestrated storyline, sold for views, built on someone else's real emotions. The judge finally turned to Jim. "Do you have anything to add before we end today's hearing?" Jim slowly stood, walked to the center of the room, and took a deep breath. Then he said, "I just want peace. I want my time back, not revenge. Just the real version of what happened." Then he walked out. No drama, no final stare. Just a man leaving behind the ruins of a life that, to him, had never really existed. But Chrissy wasn't done after court ended. Her former publicist released a statement on her behalf. It read, "Chrissy acknowledges the emotional damage caused. She is now trying to stay off the internet and focus on healing privately." But for many watching, that healing came too late. What started as a love story turned into a courtroom tragedy filled with lies, leaked videos, and betrayal. Jim Jones walked away not with revenge, but with a quiet plea for peace and truth. Chrissy's silence spoke louder than any denial, while the world watched her image crumble in real time. The story may have ended in court, but its impact will echo far beyond the headlines. For those who once believed in the fairy tale, the truth hit harder than fiction ever could. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more shocking updates and real stories that matter.